questions from that book. I hadn't read it. I felt foolish. So I started reading, had questions. They answered what they could, then had me meet with the missionaries. And so about 6 months after I met the family, I was baptized.
How did your mother feel about that?
Mom was not amused. I think the missionaries only gave one of the lessons in my mother's home. And it might have been two, but I think just the first lesson. Mom was in her room and listening and hadn't come out. But after the missionaries left, she called me in and she said, "I don't want those two young men back here." And I asked, "Why not?" And she did the black mother thing. "This is my house, and I don't want them here. Is that clear?" "Yes, ma'am." Later, I found out that before we kids came along, two young men had come to the house and had wanted to talk about religion. She invited them in, and shortly after that, one of them said, "Excuse me, Mrs. Gray, but," I think she said, "are you Negro or do you have Negroid blood?" Because my mom was a blend with Native American, and they weren't sure what they were saying, who, what. And when my mom said yes, of course, they got up and made a hasty exit. Well, they had been members and missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Mom saw that church as racist, and she didn't want me to be a part of that.
Now, probably, I'm guessing, the question that you have been asked more times than any other question, right? So how did you deal with that, and why was it not an obstacle to you?
In those 6 months, it never came up. I didn't know.
You didn't know?
And it was honestly the night before my scheduled baptism before I found out. Baptism was set for Saturday, December 26th. Christmas Day evening, I met with the missionaries at their apartment, which I don't think is standard procedure, but had what I call the exit interview. And as they were asking their questions, they said, "Well, Brother Gray, do you have any questions?" And I had raised that question earlier on because reading in the Book of Mormon talked about the Lamanites and the Nephites, and Lamanites at times being out of favor with God, having a dark skin. I wondered, how does that relate to me? And so when they asked if I had any questions, I raised that question again that night. And we three were seated on a single sofa and sort of, edging out to see each other. And one of the two missionaries got up and left and walked over to the corner. And it turned out it was the senior companion who was left there. And his comment, "Well, Brother Gray," and quote, "Well, Brother Gray, the primary implication is that you won't be able to hold the priesthood," close quote. He went on to say more, but I did not hear anything more after that. And my impression was I had been duped. My mom's concerns and fears that she had voiced earlier were valid. And I sat there and I listened, and I thought, there's no way in hell I'm going to be baptized tomorrow. Went home, couldn't tell Mom, knew how she felt. I didn't know how the Felix family really felt. Had they been a part of this, knowing that I was seen as cursed and because of my race. And so even though they were 3 doors away, I didn't feel I could go there. So I entered into prayer, and after closing that prayer, I just tossed and turned in bed and entered into prayer a second time. And the truth is, I received personal revelation. Did not see angelic beings, did not see God the Father or the Savior, but I heard, "This is the restored gospel, and you are to join." No mention of the priesthood restriction, whether it was of God or of man, whatever, just this is the restored gospel. So based on that, and based on my Christian upbringing, and when you hear that voice of deity, it's not the burning in the bosom. You have a very clear choice. And so the next day I was baptized.